that this was such a pain to get going. Oh, for God's sake. All right, still causing problems. We can get this fixed. I have no idea what you're looking at right now, but I should be able to get through it in a minute. There we go. Okay, so it seems that Assassin's Creed is persona non grata on this stream for the next little while. But I wanted to stream still. It'll be a shorter stream now, obviously, because I had to spend the whole night getting everything working. And there's a couple of problems where if I... Oh, interesting. I think I'm going to have to fix something on my computer after. Once I click into this game, I'm not going to be able to click out unless I fully quit the game. But that's fine because I don't see any reason to do that otherwise. So we'll just quickly run in. This game is very old-fashioned in its controls, and I am definitely going to need a while to get everything figured out. The worst one is that strafing does not work the way... Yeah. Nice big screen. You're gonna handle it, I promise. Okay, new game. So the way this game was originally released, you would get episode 1 for sure. That was like the shareware version, which you'd like pay a little money to get like the disc for or something like that. And then you'd pay for all the other episodes. So like I think everybody remembers episode 1. Like I remember playing this like a million years ago on like a friend's computer, and like they had basically just kept that shareware version. I mean, like Doom had already been a thing. Like obviously there were other games that had been released, but yeah, I remember getting to play this, and it was like I was really interested in it. But anyways, let's shut up. And now I am not going on I Am Death Incarnate. That is ridiculous. I'm probably gonna have some trouble on Bring 'Em On, but don't hurt me. I don't know. I will settle with this. Hello, Pavel444. This was not the original plan for the evening. It's actually been a very, very, very long time since I've played this game. But I wanted to do something for the night. So for those of you not familiar with this game, so this is the main way that you control the character. If you want to strafe, so I'm using the arrow keys right now to move forward. It's also windowed right now. It might actually be easier for me to just take a look at the OBS window, which is a little bit larger. But basically you use your arrow keys to like turn around, and if you want to strafe, you have to hold down Alt. So the whole like WASD movement on all that does not work in the world of Wolfenstein, and it is very confusing. Dope. Oh. Alright, that was easy. So the biggest thing about this game is, unlike other first-person shooters, so I think Halo is the first one that kind of gave you regenerating health. And in this game, basically, it's a little bit more like a maze, and it's a lot more about controlling resources. So in this case, I've got 100% health. Thank you very much for the host, Jesse Quill. I know, by the way, Jess has a big problem watching games like this because of all the pixels. Oh yeah, you're also timed in this game, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, basically, in these cases, and they sort of captured it in Wolfenstein: The New Order. Oops. But basically, or actually Doom would be another good example of this, where Doom doesn't have a system where doesn't have a system where like you regenerate health, but if you perform like a glory kill, then you damn it. I don't think so, Pavel444, but I only ever played the shareware version. This is going to be the first time I play... I'm assuming I stick with it. This is going to be the first time I've actually seen more than... I mean, I played the hell out of the episode 1. But yeah, I've never seen anything outside of it. What was I going to say? Yeah, so Doom captured a little bit of that. And, I mean, so one of the challenges here is that it's kind of interesting to see things that still hold up in these games. And then there's also the side where you sort of realize that, Dark Forces is a perfect example of this. Dark Forces is a genuine innovation on these first-person shooter-style games. But the levels are just absolutely labyrinthine. It's just like, I have no idea. I even remember getting confused when I first played Dark Forces, like in terms of where I was supposed to go. And like in this game, it's got the same thing. Like you have to find a key and then, you know, like kind of walk around and find the thing that you need to unlock with it. And Blood. I don't think I ever played Blood. Although my Steam icon used to be Caleb from Blood 2. You'll notice, by the way, proximity to the Nazis is probably the biggest determinant of damage that you'll take. There's not a whole lot of extra range you can, or there's not a lot of variation in terms of this, in terms of where you can, you know, in terms of aiming and things like that. So I think proximity was sort of the way they got around that. Incidentally, so I am told that the origins of this game actually come down. So id Software, it sort of makes sense that, you know, they've always, you know, I guess it's id Tech Engine is what it's called now. It's always sort of been associated with improvements in terms of graphics and such. And one of the big innovations here was actually for 2D platforming games. So id Software had made a game called Commander Keen, for whom BJ Blazkowicz is the grandfather, I believe. Anyways, so I think the original intention was for id Software to do a PC port of Mario, which ultimately never happened. But the whole idea was that they were sort of able to do enough scans of images to be able to sort of get a fairly decent looking platforming game. Like, this is the big thing. Like, we take a lot of computing power for granted now. But you need to worry, like, so for this game, right, it's like we've got a 3D environment. You can't just keep this entire level in memory in the idea that, like, you know, at any moment I can just, you know, suddenly pop up to like 6 rooms before and all the images will be there. So part of what made Wolfenstein unique was the fact that they sort of had a way of rendering these levels in a way that you could actually get away with sort of a real-time 3D game. And then obviously Doom improved on that. Another big thing about Doom was the fact that you could, do multiplayer. And then that was kind of where a lot of the progress came in. It was actually Dark Forces, I believe, was the first one where you could look up and down. Again, I'm more... Oh, somebody shoot me. I'm sort of speaking more so in terms of the order in which I played things. But the nice thing was I would tend to get, like... I don't know, like, I guess the really good ones sort of floated to the top, and then I didn't have to see all, like, the not-so-good stuff, just because, you know, it got ignored or forgotten. But yeah, so one of the things that's missing from this game, of course, is the idea of being able to do WASD. Controls were just you turn left, you turn right. Sure, you can have an option to strafe, but it doesn't make a... For them, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to be able to... Like, the idea of controlling with a mouse, you can do it, it's just you're going to continue to move yourself... Oh, damn it. Alright, well, at least I got a med kit. It's not like I'm doing a speed run or anything. I'll show you what... This is what moving with the mouse looks like. I kind of have to push forward. There we go. So probably not the most intuitive system for... I mean, it's a little less... I don't know, it looks a little more natural than, you know, just pushing the forward directions, but it's not exactly... It's not exactly the most intuitive control, let's say. It's the opposite of speedrun. Sometimes we just want to meditate on the nature of the game. Uh-oh. Down, boy! Boy, I sure am glad that I saved all that ammo that I've got. That was a really good idea on my part. Am I only coming in here with the express purpose of killing dogs? I think so. Jesus Christ. Why am I so bad at this game? I should find, should be some health in the next couple of rooms. So one of the sneakiest tricks in this game is normally what they'll do is there'll be a Nazi sort of just hanging around the corner. Ooh. I was joking. Guys in blue are machine gunners, so it'd be nice if I had a little extra health to deal with them just in case something comes up. Well-stocked cells. It's like going to the supermarket. So I suppose this begs the question, why am I playing this now? Mostly because I have not played this game in a really long time. We finished Wolfenstein: The New Order and The Old Blood, and the intention was originally to play Assassin's Creed Unity, but that didn't work out, so this seemed to be the sort of thing that would have fewer... I actually wound up having some technical problems anyway, but I had less of them than... Okay. So what I'm going to try and do here is take out the guy in brown, then I'll jump out, flip to the machine gun, and take care of the guy in blue. It didn't work. I mean, I technically could just sit with a machine gun for the whole time, but... Also, I actually remember, so the first computer that I played this on was an old one in the sense that it only had a PC speaker. It didn't have like a sound blast or anything like that. So all the sounds that you're hearing right now weren't what I heard. I'd basically just hear some like computer equivalent of like going pew pew when you shot a gun. I might be able to enable those. I don't know how DOSBox handles... I don't know how DOSBox handles PC speaker sounds, but... where was it? Let's see if we can get this. Well, I'll do a quick back to game. Yeah, so it's all just... Oop. Fortunately, there's no reload mechanic. Okay, there's definitely more than one guy. There's also going to be food in there because it's a kitchen. So let's see if I can... There we go. What else did I have to say about it? Yeah, so it was really amazing. I was totally blown away when I got to hear somebody yell, yell German. I still remember hearing "Mein Leben" when you take out the guys in blue. And yeah, just generally, I mean, I think one of the big things, what was really funny, I need to confess, so my family was a church-going family. So the first time that I played this, there was a big, there's a big controversy in the church. So I'm pretty sure the Nintendo 64 was like on its way coming out. I can't remember the exact chronology of events, but like Nintendo was like old news. But basically what it came down to was they were trying to figure out how to get the youth involved in the church. And like I didn't have any options because like my dad was like, really involved, and like I was gonna be there no matter what. And so they thought, well, there's a bunch of these like Christian games available for the Nintendo. And so maybe you can have like a Nintendo in, and we're talking about the original Nintendo, like the NES. Again, around the time that like the N64, I think, is the console. And I mean, the N64 was a little old by the time that was happening. But basically, yeah, we can have it in, but they can only play the Bible-based games. And there was a bit of debate, is it appropriate for there to be a Nintendo in the youth room in a church? So anyways, big debate over it, and they eventually figured out, okay, yeah, well, oops. They figure, okay, that's fine because it's got biblical material in it. So we go, and the big thing, so this is by a company called Wisdom Tree. You should look them up. There were some amazing things you could do in some of the Wisdom Tree games, like oh damn it, you're playing like the Save Baby Moses. Oh, everything resets. Okay. Oh shit, and I don't have enough ammo to sustain this. Wow, this game was brutal when it killed you. There we go. One of the memories of this game, Autism Environment. Well, it's not April yet, but how you doing, Araziel Tempest? Yeah, I'm having a good time with it. Obviously, I like to talk about how, I don't know, like I love how people talk about how much better it was in the good old days of gaming, and then I play something like Wolfenstein and is like, why can't I move my character the way I want to? But it really is a good game. So, oh, I am gonna get wrecked. Hard hearing today's youth use it as an, I don't know, it kind of I think it depends a little bit more in terms of like the circles that you're in. Like, I mean, this could be a story of my research, really. Like, it's helpful to try and talk about, like, on average in some cases, but I think there really sort of seems to be a little bit of a polarization. Like, some people will use autistic in a pejorative sense, and, like, they'll think nothing of it. It's just like, you know, yeah, so I said it, you know, grow a thicker skin or whatever. And then there's some people who will, like, be sensitive about it. It's a little bit kind of like the transition from, like, where it used to be okay for somebody to say, like, something was gay in a negative sense. I am gonna get wrecked. Where the hell is the... Oh, there we go. I should be able to get some more food. So, like, obviously that was basically always hurtful. But the degree to which... you know, the degree to which people sort of understood that. Like, I think there could be perfectly normal people who, you know, just for sort of lack of thought, you know, in a moment, didn't quite realize how hurtful that might be. And so nowadays, like, it's pretty much considered to be a bit of a, you know, a non-starter in terms of conversation. Like, obviously people will still say it. You can't force people to use or not use certain words, but, like, generally there's a social cost associated with that because we've become a little bit more aware of those kinds of issues. And I think it's a similar thing with autism or whatever. Like, if you're the type of person who will just, I don't know, I guess it's sort of the same way that people would say something like retard or whatever in terms of an insult. Like, you know, there's going to be some people who don't know any better or don't care. But there's also going to be just a general social pressure. So, for instance, right now there's the Bell Talks campaign going on about mental health, and I think things like that tend to create an environment in which people sort of understand that it's not maybe a topic for fun. Yeah, Raziel Tempest. I mean, I think it just comes down to, so there's always going to be people who will say something hurtful no matter what, right? And I just don't think there's any way that you can necessarily appeal to them until they're, you know, ready to hear that kind of a message. But then I think there are the people who just simply don't realize quite what they're saying. And those are the ones where, you know, it's just a matter of, again, having a conversation like this one. But anyway, sorry, I was talking about church going and the idea of whether or not it's okay to have a Nintendo in a youth room. So anyways, like, big deal, you know, the Nintendo is basically given away. You know, they notice after a while, it's like, okay, well, we've managed to do it, but, you know, the youths aren't there anymore. Why aren't they playing the Nintendo with all these wholesome biblical games? And one of the sons of the pastor had installed Wolfenstein on the church computer, like the office computer. And I remember looking at it the first time, and I was like, what is this? This is so cool. I guess I'd sort of seen, like, 3D-ish games before in the sense of, like, flight simulators, but, like, not like this, and definitely not, like, running around shooting people. I just stood there watching the guy play it, and I was like, I was in awe. Like, this, like, the game looked just like this. It's not like I was like, oh my god, these graphics are so amazing. Oh, interesting. So they let you keep the machine gun, but they reset your ammo to like 4. Devious. But yeah, so you know, after that, you know, I kind of convinced my parents. It's like, oh yeah, there's this super cool game. You know, this is the time, like, you could still get, like, game, like, books It was like a book about games. Like I played so many classic games with this thing. It was like a book that you would get from a bookstore, like just any computer book. And it came with a CD, and it had like shareware versions of like, I don't know, tons of stuff. There was like Theme Hospital, there was XCOM, there was Wolfenstein. I wasn't allowed to play Doom. As soon as my parents found out like about the blood in Wolfenstein, they were a little uncomfortable with the game. And I think the argument was like, well, they're Nazis. Like it's, you know, that this is fine, right? Your words shouldn't matter either. You're an eye for eye, tooth for. Well, it depends what you mean. Like, so if your effort is to, you know, to hurt the other person, that's, you know, that's obviously your prerogative. But I'm not entirely, like, my view is, okay, so Jess can tell you I have a sufficiently sharp tongue. And I certainly derive quite a bit of enjoyment out of using it when I am particularly annoyed with an individual. So I sort of need to appreciate, like, for myself, I know I would be a better person if I only spoke in a very sort of forthright and maybe not even forthright, but upright way. Oh my god. But I don't always, you know, I don't always fit that ideal. The big thing though is that, so actually here's a good example. So there's a streamer who, like, they posted what to my view was a very ignorant and very unhelpful kind of you know, view on how affiliated streamers should be monetizing their channels. And generally, he was being very rude to people who disagreed with him. Now, what was very important for me in that exchange was to not to be the sort of person I kind of wanted to be. So, like, I would have loved to be very condescending. I would have loved to you know, I would have loved to basically just, you know, be in high dudgeon and, you know, and just, you know, show them what's what. But for that particular case, I thought, it was like, well, you know, I'm clearly not going to get across to this person. Like, they banned me, or not banned me, but blocked me after, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 messages. And I always focused on the idea that, yeah, exactly, Raziel Temple. And this is the big thing, right? Like, the simplest thing, it was the first thing that I said to that streamer, is that you will watch your tone when you're talking with me. Like, it was not up for debate. It was a straight command. Now, whether or not he decided to continue on with it is fine, but, like, this is not acceptable. And in that case, like, it doesn't necessarily, like, I guess there's the difference there. Like, there's nothing necessarily rude about that. That is being very clear in terms of, you know, the proper modes of address or whatever. And then I could, you know, the alternative, of course, would be, you know, I just fall down to his level and I start calling him an idiot or whatever. But I was basically, the key on that one was just to appeal to the potentially reasonable people who might read it afterwards and sort of live the example of the dialogue that I think would be productive. Because the biggest thing on this one was, like, it was about whether or not you should have subscriber only VODs. And the case that I made is, like, if you think about my channel or like any other average channel, it's probably not a good idea because you want to have as many possibilities as you can for people to see your stuff. But there might be plenty of other reasons as to why you'd want to monetize that content. For instance, if you do a creative stream. So, like, here's a great example of a stream that I did. Like, I did an econometrics stream. And if somebody wants to follow along and do the things that I did, I might want to, I might want to monetize that because I know it's a one-of-a-kind sort of a thing that's been made. And of course, with it, it has the cost of saying that there are going to be some people who just simply do not see my things because they don't want to pay for it. But my view on that one is that's my decision to make as somebody who's running a channel, right? That is not the business of some other streamer. And like the thing that he was saying is like, I'm just going to automatically block you if I see that. And I'm like, it's like, well, number one, you need to go looking for that. Like the VODs are not the first thing that you see. And second of all, like you obviously aren't going to subscribe anyway. Like what good are you to me? You're not exactly contributing anything to the dialogue. So the intention on this one was like, this guy's got a strong prior. And I mean, his view is that because he is, he can block whoever disagrees with him, that he's just got a bunch of people who are always going to tell him that he's right. And he's like, you know what? That's fine. If he wants to live in his own world, he is not my problem. I do not need to convince him otherwise. But I can lose a lot in that exchange if I start being rude. For the very simple reason that if my position is, it is better to have, honest and straightforward dialogue, then I'm not exactly living my ideal if, I'm not exactly living my ideal if I just call him an asshole every time. Every time he wants to talk about, debate me, bro, and stuff like that. It's like, what is the specific thing that you disagree with that I wrote? Because in the end, like as far as common ground is concerned, I actually think we probably had something we could talk about, which would just simply be the fact that it is not in the long-term interests of a growing cast to close itself off from possible viewers. I think there's nothing controversial in that statement. But if you are founding that on a fear that somebody who clearly doesn't want to pay for your content will block you, and they're not going to be in chat, and if they are in chat, they're not going to contribute anything, like what are you losing? Why should I care about what some Twitch partner thinks of my channel? Like, it does not make a lot of sense when you think about it, and that's ultimately where I went. I also, again, I talked about tone because I think that's important. But yeah, similarly, like, so if it's, if the argument is, yeah, you can insult people, but don't insult people over, I think the big problem that a lot of people have, I know certainly that I have, is that ultimately when you are using, oh, that guy's just an autist or whatever, when you say it that way, it's making this kind of statement as like, well, they're broken in some way, or it's something that basically somebody doesn't have control over. As you say, learns differently from other people. And that doesn't sit right for pretty much anyone, that somebody should be condemned over something that they don't have any control over. Jess has a different opinion on my appearance, but I know for a while, like I didn't have a very high opinion of my looks. And I know if somebody had said, oh, well, that guy looks like ass, I would feel bad about it because it's like, well, I don't have any control over this, and this doesn't have anything to do with whether or not I'm, a good person or not. So if the position is just that you can insult people and you don't, and you, and they should be using the right kind of insult, then yeah, I mean, obviously you can just turn around and, and snipe at them. But then there's the flip side, which is that, well, maybe we just should be nicer to people in general. And at that point, like, that's a really tough one. It's one that I have a lot of difficulty with because, like, as Jess confirmed, like, I have a sharp tongue and a willingness to use it. But I don't know, there are some, it's always a case by case situation, like, if there's an opportunity to demonstrate, not necessarily to the individual, but the people who are watching you, there can be, sometimes there's a greater value than just point scoring. And the biggest thing that I keep in mind for those is like, so it's one of the reasons it was easy not to really get into it with the streamer, was a simple fact that I know there's nothing that I have to prove to them. Like, they seem to need my validation by virtue of the fact that they're coming into my messages and talking about the thing. Whereas, like, I didn't feel any obligation to convince them because they very clearly had a strong prior that they weren't going to be moved from. So it's always a case-by-case thing. Anyways, quick word for whoever mailed Dr. David Goodman's Living from Within, The Art of Appreciation in Marriage, Parenthood, Work, Growing Up, and Growing Older. Thanks. I have a feeling that the used bookstore that I buy things from might have missed the mark in terms of who they were sending this to. But if that was one of you who sent it along, thank you. You may need to explain the significance of this book, but yeah, well, that's just it, Raziel Tempest. Like, clearly, anybody who listened to what I said there and saw my conduct at certain parts in my life, and I'm not even like, I'll be strict with myself. I'm not even going to say the times where there was a greater good for behaving that way. Like, it is a very difficult standard to live by, but it is a good one if you can manage it. And again, it's just, the other thing too is that, like, it is also a question in terms of like performance, right? So like, if I need to kind of come up with a more of a central look for my Twitter, because like there's some econ stuff that I post, not as much as I used to, but it does sort of reflect my it does tend to reflect my my stream, and so as a result, if there's somebody who, okay, so perfect example, I sent an email off to a company which I have company PR group. Anyways, somebody who I have a reasonably good relationship with regards to getting keys for games that I think are a good fit for the channel, and I can sort of help the promotional efforts with. Now, you get a lot of no's when you hear that, especially when you're a channel of my size. And as far as I'm concerned, every developer worth their salt should be asking a very simple question of their partners, which is, do I want this person representing my product? And it is astonishing the number of times people don't. Believe me, Raziel Tempest, it is very hard to deal with. So one of the problems with like ignorance is like people don't even have a conception of why they're wrong. I think that's the most frustrating part of working with that. But it's the world we live in. But yeah, anyways, so it's a very reasonable question for developers, and I don't think it gets asked enough, is this a person who I actually want in some way associated with my game? And there's a few layers of that, right? So clearly there's the PewDiePie racism in Firewatch, where Campo Santo said, it's like, you know what, you stream this thing at our pleasure, and we are retroactively taking that away. We want you to take down the video of you playing that game. They are within their rights to do that, by the way. Doesn't necessarily, that's not a normative claim. There's a side of me that thinks it would be nice to to have some certainty in terms of where everybody sort of lies. But I would say that you can get that in writing by emailing the developer. It's like I would like an understanding that I'm going to make a game or a video of this game, and here are the obligations I'm going to fulfill, and as such I don't I don't want to find out that I'm the target of a DMCA takedown, that you are okay with me producing this game at this time, and that, you know, it's, you know, it's all above board, basically. Now, let's face it, people don't have a lot of time, and most game devs are okay with you streaming their game. So, for instance, I didn't ask anybody. I guess it's id Software that owns this. It might be Activision that owns this, actually. I know the Wolfenstein IP belongs to ZeniMax, but this specific game might actually be an Activision one. Oh. Yeah, exactly, you Christensen. And this is one of the biggest things. Is like the internet has a very long memory. So the last thing I want to do is, you know, be trying to make a case that, you know, I might be a smaller stream, but, you know, this is the number of concurrent viewers that I get. Here's how I cover these games. And especially because a lot of, like, obviously I don't mean to speak on your guys' behalf, but like the one pretty consistent bit of feedback that I get is usually the level of the discourse and sort of the analysis of the game, or, you know, or just the kinds of topics that we cover during the game. Like, if somebody's going to be doing their homework, which honestly developers really should do more often, or if not, I mean, obviously sorry, I should be careful with what I'm saying on that. Developers' time is precious. What should be happening is the people who are like being these managers of influencers and content creators, they should be doing more than just looking who has the most followers, who's interested in the game, and you know, and giving out keys to them. They should actually be saying, is this somebody appropriate for the game? So for instance, if there is, I don't know, a new Need for Speed that gets released, there's nothing that I have indicated that says that I am an appropriate streamer for that game. I'm really interested in trying the Need for Speed games. Game's not working. There we go. I'm really interested in trying them. I think I would enjoy them quite a bit, but like, there's nothing that says a System Shock Need for Speed stream is going to be added value to this. You know, there's basically no, you know, there's nothing that says, you know, this streamer has to play Need for Speed. Like, it is something that is going to help the promotion of the game. And if I'm talking, it's like, you know, we tend to talk about academic ideas. If I do a Paradox game, you know, I talk about political economy, or I talk about strategy, or, you know, any one of these things. If I've put a lot behind this idea that, you know, there's an elevated level of discourse sometimes, and obviously not all the time. I don't want to pretend this is like some Ivory Tower cast or something like that. But as I gun down a bunch of Nazis. But basically, you know, it takes one Google or Twitter search to see me getting into a pointless argument with some guy and being drugged down to his level. Like, what does that say? And it's like, okay, so if some guy comes in and starts running their mouth in his channel, like, am I now gonna have to deal with alongside people trying to find out like what this game looks like to hear some guy yell at them or something like that? Elkanu, thank you very much for the host. It's not the Wolfenstein that you should be as happy about. I hope you're doing well. I believe when I saw you, it looked like you were in Dark Souls 3 and further than where I was, so I didn't hang around too much longer. But I don't know what you were playing tonight, if you were playing something tonight. I was sort of hit by a bunch of technical difficulties. For those of you who don't know Elkanu, he is French, not German. He has a really cool job, which I'm still not allowed to talk about what it is. This is your favorite Wolfenstein. Oh, fair enough. He is a wonderful streamer. I still like talking about where I originally found him. Where he was playing Satellite Rain. Now, the important thing about Satellite Rain, and actually this ties in with the idea of how your stream is perceived. I was on the fence about Satellite Rain because it seemed like all of the early access reviews had like they were pretty bad, and then all of a sudden they transformed into something really good. And I was trying to decide, is this a game that, oh my god, I went straight back to the beginning. But yeah, so I was like, is this game any good, or is it, you know, is it a bit of a waste? And you know, I watched all the English casters, and they made it look remarkably dull. Like, just one of them didn't talk during the game at all. It looked really slow. It just, you know, it was. I was kind of like, oh, that's a shame. Like, it looked like a really interesting game, and I was kind of like, well, you know, fair enough. But then I sort of thought to myself, I was like, well, these weren't exactly, like, these weren't the kind of casters I would be watching, other than the fact that they were doing, I know this is going to go in a big circle. I just want to make sure there aren't any other rooms that I missed out on. But basically I sort of thought, I was like, okay, well, these aren't people who I really would have been watching anyway. So it could be that these are just not very good streamers. Like, you know, let me take a look. And I sort of thought to myself, like, well, you know, I haven't been practicing my French, so I'll go check out the French streamers. And I can't even remember why I fell on El Canu. I don't think it was, I don't think he was the biggest streamer on Satellite Rain, but one reason or another I went in there. And even though, like, again, my French is not that good, I really enjoyed watching him play the game. And this is one thing that's very consistent about El Canu's streams. It doesn't really matter what he's playing. He does a very good job of connecting the audience with, the potential audience of the game with the game. So if it's something that even he doesn't necessarily enjoy himself, I really feel like he is able to find the things that make that game fun. And if you were on the fence about buying it, I think if you were to watch an El Canu cast of that game, you'd feel quite informed about what you were getting yourself into, and whether or not the game was for you. And that's a rare ability. It's very easy to sit down and, you know, and just play a game and talk like I am. But to be able to sort of give somebody that information and it's not necessarily just, you know, a review program or something like that. Because honestly, I think a lot of video game reviews especially on Twitch, are not good. It's just, you know, okay, so now I know your opinion. Like, what's, you know, why should I believe you? Like, what do you know about my tastes to tell me that this is worth my time or not? El Canu is really able to cut through a lot of that, and just, you know, again, does a wonderful cast, and really connects people with games. It's one of these great examples of using Twitch as a means of sharing games with people, so. Well, I've shirked a little bit on my French lessons because there's another language I'm learning as well. But all right, so I've got the gold key, but I want to see what else is around here, because again, I'm definitely not doing. Yeah, no problem, El Canu. Good lord, this level's definitely very, Well, see, this is the thing, like, I'm not actually that opposed to video game reviews, but it's like any kind of criticism, so it's easy to, like, go to the movie, you know, so if you go and watch Dunkirk, let's say, and you have an opinion about Dunkirk, it's like, okay, excellent, you know, I now know that you have an opinion. It's a very different thing to say, you know, out of war movies, you know, here here are some things. Like, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most was when I was talking about Gladiator to a friend, and I talked about sort of the structure that I found inside of the film that I think is intentional. And I like, I took them on the whole journey. It's like, and then there's this that happens and this that happens. And, I'm pretty sure this is what they're trying to do with this. And like at the end, they're like, oh man, I really, really want to watch Gladiator now. This is sharing in this case, it's a strongly felt point of view on my part. Like I am convinced that aspect is totally intentional and makes the movie very good. And I clearly enjoyed it, but the idea was more than just like, yeah, I like Gladiator. The fight scenes were good. It's a carefully thought out, like it's an effort to try and help somebody appreciate something that I enjoyed more than they otherwise would. Is kind of where I'm going with that. And I think that would be, like, to me, that would be the ideal of video game reviews. So a great example of this would be, I really enjoyed the story of Gone Home. But one thing that I didn't care that much for was the fact that the gameplay basically fell down to picking up different items through the house. And like, it was a very compelling story, and I liked the fact that I got to unpack it on my own time. But I felt that it was basically kind of a series of audio diaries that they made it somewhat difficult to grab. And I'm not entirely sure that's the best example of gameplay that I could think of. So like, Sunless Sea has a lot of story, and it has, lots of text to read, but there's these wonderful little moments of mental rest. Or there's also this idea of like trying to find the next island. And in that case, there's enough to kind of go back and forth. Thank you very much, Raziel Tempest. Sharp tongue, silver tongue. I guess what I'm saying is if the werewolves come around, don't worry, I'll be able to take care of it. I don't even remember how many levels there were in this one. But yeah, so this is the funny thing, is that I think, written reviews actually tend to do a fairly decent job of that. I mean, some don't. But then you look, and again, I'm always, like, Jess could tell you exactly which streamers and YouTubers I'm talking about, but I'm really reluctant to like name and shame, because it's just like, again, a lot of this just comes down to my own personal preferences. Oh God. But like this whole business of like, just shouting the whole time about how bad publishers are. Or, like, just, like, the biggest thing that, like, the biggest critics that I see on YouTube and stuff like that, it would not surprise me at all to find out that they don't like video games. That basically they got a good gig, they got in early, maybe they liked video games when they started, but they just seem so pissed off all the time, and pissed off over, like, the most trivial stuff. And it's like, video game criticism is not complaining. Like, video game criticism is saying, is like, here is a work, we're going to sit down and we're going to analyze it. We're going to do an autopsy on, Assassin's Creed Unity or something like that. And it's, it's totally fine to say stuff like, it seems like there are optimization issues, in addition to my machine looking at the forums, it indicates that there are several people, Jesus Christ! It seems like there are several players who are experiencing, pretty substantial frame drops on systems that meet the requirements, right? That obviously doesn't necessarily age very well, because if the developer is able to overcome those problems, then that doesn't really say a lot about the quality of the game. Something that might work a little bit better is if you say it's like, okay, there's the story, there's sort of the usual beats that it does in Assassin's Creed. So if you like Assassin's Creed, you'll get these things, but this is the Xth game in the series. It doesn't really feel like they've added a whole lot other than the graphics. And so, this is a good game if you like Assassin's Creed games, but I didn't necessarily feel that it offered enough to justify the price of a full game or something along those lines. Like, to me, that should be the bare minimum of criticism, to basically be able to say, here is what here's my best estimate in terms of what the value of this thing is and who this game is for. Because if you, I hate the term walking simulator so much, because it just strikes me as being very, sort of dismissive. And especially too, because there's, I don't know, there's just, it's one of these ones where it feels like, games that are sort of more artistic or experimental that I like are genre breaking, and the experimental games that I don't like become walking simulators. Like that seems kind of dumb. But yeah, basically, I guess what it comes down to is that I would like it if criticism took into account that, okay, so they talk about racing games. I was talking about Need for Speed before. All right, so clearly there is health back there. There we go. No, I saw an... Ooh, look at that grin. I saw an advertisement for it when I was installing my drivers, Raziel Tempest. I always get so lost in these games. Ah! Is he blending in with the blue background? Oh, hell. Oh god, there's more than one of them! I think there was... Oh, Jesus! So much mein Leben and... Anyways, yeah, so like... A review or a critique of a racing game to somebody like me is going to be very different to somebody who has basically played every Need for Speed and Forza and whatnot. And again, we were talking about this a little bit before, but you know, who's your audience? Like, I guess the biggest thing is that, you know, if you're trying to write to the average gamer, quote unquote, you're probably just going to wind up with a really crappy essay. Because, like, who is the average gamer? Is the average gamer the person who's complaining about loot boxes on Reddit? Is it, you know, is it somebody who just mainlines Call of Duty every time it comes out? It just seems to me like I've always liked the approach of saying, you know, I'm going to try and convince you as to why this thing is worth your time, or how this thing could have been worth your time if it was, you know, if it had just succeeded in overcoming, you know, X problem or Y problem. It doesn't mean that you have to be like a shill. It doesn't mean that you have to advocate for the game in a particular way. I wonder if this is a swastika shape. It sure looks like it. I think that's the puzzle. Maybe not. Get out of there! Oh, crap. I'm running out of ammo. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just like... The other thing, like, so there's a side of me that's, like, obviously this doesn't necessarily make me a very good, like, quote-unquote objective critic or anything like that, but I just really don't like the idea of taking something that people put years of time into, and then just, like, dismissing it with, like, you know, oh yeah, graphics look like they're from, like, 2014 or something like that. This is the other thing too, like the number of times that I've seen good-looking games and everybody's like, oh, these shaders remind me of Unreal. It's like, I understand that to you, good-looking game means Unreal, but there is more than one engine, and in fact, the one thing, so out of any developer that I've talked to, the one thing that never comes up in conversation between them, like getting to see two developers meet each other for the first time, at no point in the conversation do they say, what engine do you use? Are you on Team Unreal? Are you on Team Unity? Do you make your own engine? Oh my god, you use Game Maker Studio? You're not a real dev. None of those conversations happen. I suck. They might say that, but they would be wrong. Yeah, it's just the I don't know, like it just comes down to like I guess what it comes down to is like what's the point of the review? And I think the reason why I don't get along well with the current form of video game criticism is it feels like these videos kind of like these videos exist. It's almost like the game is secondary, and it's just that this is a genre of like, you know, 30-plus-year-old guy, you know, with brown hair, most likely a beard, just being angry. Like that's a whole genre of video, and it just so happens that, you know, video games are a common topic that come up on that one. So thank you for pimping my stuff, Jesse Quill. Incidentally, guys, it's worth mentioning, I did not shout out Jessie Quill yet, but first credit that she needs to get, I get to find out whether or not she has shouted out any of my blog articles, because she basically, if I post an article, I get like 4 views. And when she retweets one of my articles, it gets like 20. I broke 100 views the first time Jessie Quill retweeted or referenced one of the loot box articles. Obviously, it's a timely topic, but yeah, she's done a lot to promote my stuff. I was originally doing Assassin's Creed on sort of her implied recommendation. Sadly, technical problems got in the way, so I wasn't able to do that. But she's a wonderful caster in her own right. I believe she's going to be doing Cultist Simulator soon. By the way, do feel free to shout yourself out, because I can't get out of this menu as soon as... I can't get out of this window as soon as the game is active. But a really wonderful caster just recently finished Life is Strange Before the Storm, And one of the things I like the most about her is when she plays story-based games, she always has an interesting perspective in terms of why the characters do what they do. And obviously we're having a little bit of a discussion in terms of mental health issues. And Jess is probably the best caster I know in terms of discussing those issues, because of course she does have that background in psychology and she knows what she's talking about, whereas I just simply shoot out opinions. Mind you, Feelsonomics isn't that hard. It's, you know, it's kind of like, it's like the poor man's econ. But no, Jessie's wonderful. I'm currently waging a sustained campaign of psychological warfare to try and get her to play Stellaris, because I believe her exact words were, the trailers make it look so much cooler than it really is. And I am trying to explain to her how everything that happens in those trailers happens in the game, and you just need to use your imagination to, you know, to understand that you're not just moving around little ships on a board, but you're actually enacting this giant space opera. You can put all of science fiction in one map, one game. It's really exciting. But yeah, it's sometimes difficult to convince people of these things. Like, honestly, like, actually, so here we go. Here is a review of Paradox games for you. Paradox games are not for everyone, and I think everybody knows that Paradox games are not for everyone. So why would you want to play one? The biggest thing for me about a Paradox game is it's not just the fact that it's complicated and it gives me a lot to do. Like, the time that I spend learning the game rewards like it rewards my like the time that I spend on it is rewarded by new experiences and improvements to... Oh, thank you very much. So, like, there's the mechanics side of the equation. Like, does this game give me interesting things to do, and can I waste some time with it? The answer is yes, but there's kind of that second order question of, like, is it the best thing I can be spending my time on, right? Because I also like Chaos Reborn, or I like Wolfenstein, and you know, there's a bunch of games that I haven't played yet that I could also enjoy very much. So the reason why the Paradox games are so interesting, and actually specifically Stellaris, because I think it's one of the best examples of it, is that it is a game that if you open yourself up to reading the text boxes, wait, I already went through this, and you know, thinking about what these things are, and just keeping in mind the different events that took place, then you're taken on this journey. You're given this really wonderful story, and it's a completely emergent narrative. So, you know, just like I'm fucked. Just like I really enjoyed Cultist Simulator, where, you know, I was ready to do this ritual, and it said I needed a sacrifice, so my first thought was I should sacrifice one of the members of my cult. And it turns out it wasn't human sacrifice, it was financial sacrifice. There's just this wonderful moment of reflection where I was like, oh man, like, now I'm gonna have to clean everything up. Oops. And this is something that, like, in one side, I'm sure, like, they sort of knew something like that would happen, which is why they left it ambiguous. But, like, obviously that is a scenario, that's a scenario that's entirely created in my mind. Like, all that's been given in the game was the movement of certain cards on the table. Jesus. So likewise with Stellaris, like, I just think the thing that's so interesting. So you get a free machine gun if you if you get the chain gun. I wonder if that's a bug. Yeah, no worries, Alcanu. I'm actually probably going to be wrapping up pretty soon myself because I haven't been streaming for a very long time, but I also got a super late start. So it'd be nice if I can make it to the last boss, but I don't remember how long it takes me to get there. Anyways, have a wonderful evening, guys. If you're not following Alcanu, do give him a shot. He really is a fun caster to watch, and especially when I was talking about some of the things that disappoint me with the state of video game criticism, he definitely lives a different kind of interaction with games, which I'm very happy to see. So, Blaster1, how are you doing? Does it have the Hitler head mod? No. I don't know what you mean by the Hitler head mod. I'm slightly curious now. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't do a very good job of selling Stellaris, but this is the big thing for me, is that if you are, I guess, you know what? Here's the bet. Stellaris is a game for people who read books. Because clearly the enjoyment that you get from a book is more than like, obviously reading a book involves more than just looking at some pages, like, sorry, just looking at some words on some pages. Like, you're creating characters, you don't even necessarily have a very... Oh, that's really interesting, Blaster1. Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't even know there were mods. Well, I guess, sorry, that's wrong. Like, I'm assuming there must be mods for this game. Because there's like mods for everything, but I wasn't really consciously aware that it was a usual thing. So yeah, this is just vanilla Wolfenstein, I'm afraid. But yeah, the thing I was saying about books, like, basically the idea is that, you know, I don't usually have like a conscious idea of what the characters in books that I like look like. And yet I have an idea, like, I sort of have this sort of concept in my mind of sort of how things should look, I guess is the best. It's almost dreamlike if it comes right down to it. So I think the thing that I like so much about Stellaris is that if you can sort of tap into those reasons why people like reading books, you know, just kind of the world that's going on in the background and all the things that you enjoy about that. So also, if you're like one of the people who enjoys sort of finding out about all the little details of the Star Trek universe, then presumably there's a lot in Stellaris for you, because I guess the big thing about it is that you can like tell any science fiction story, and on top of that, again, like, you have names for your science officers, you have names for your leaders, you know, you have this great story about, you know, the squid people who kind of came out of the water and took to the skies, or maybe you want to, you want to tell the story of what happened to Earth when it finally united and went out to take its place in the stars or whatever. Maybe you just want to tell Mass Effect again, but you want to tell it as a strategy game. All of that's available to you in Stellaris. But the problem is that if you just think of it as a series of mechanics, then maybe it's not a very interesting game. You know, it at least no more than any other game where you have a bunch of you know, data thrown at you. I happen to like games like that, so I have a pretty high tolerance for any game that does that sort of thing. But clearly, you know, clearly that's not for everyone. But yeah, with that in mind, like I said, it's a sustained campaign of psychological warfare on Jesse Quill. When Jesse was like, what? So this game is as old as Jesse Quill. I didn't realize it'd been 19 years. You're right, she doesn't look a day over 50. You know what? If this was mean, they would have put 2 guys here to kill me. Oh wow, 92. Excuse me guys, just 1 second. I need to answer an email really quick. Oh, by the way, here's the way to put it. Jessica, you'll remember a trailer that we watched yesterday that made you feel very emotional. It's not official, but I believe I will be covering that. I think the real question is whether or not I have enough time to do another. I'll do like 15 minutes of one more. If I really get into it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to complete this one. Alright, I'm not gonna lie. Playing games like these make me really grateful for modern level design conventions. It's all the same brown walls. I have no idea where I'm going. I like this though. I don't know if I should say like the game still holds up. I don't think I'm really in a position to say that, but I'm enjoying it. It's I definitely see like where. So actually, you know what? The thing I love the most about playing games like this, it's how I'm able to see. Like I'm able to play modern shooters, and I'm able to play this, and I'm able to understand why certain conventions have become like standard in the game. Actually, one thing I will give Wolfenstein credit for, though, unlike other first-person shooters that I've played from around this time or a little bit after, it seems to be very good at getting me the key before I find the locked door. I think Dark Forces, I always keep winding up in these. Areas where I have no idea, like, where I'm supposed to go. I think Dark Forces is like my public enemy #1 for confusing level design. But on the other hand, like, you don't have, like, you can go, like, you can't go up and down in this game. So, like, what are you gonna do? Like, there's no stairs, there's no, you know, there's no alternative. So, it'd be kind of neat. I think what I'll do after I beat this episode is I'll maybe go back and take a look at what some of the floor plans look like, because I'm pretty sure I saw. I really should have used the pistol for that. have a pistol? Oh, yes I do. Do I really want to use a knife against the rest of the things that are going to be coming after me? Nope, but I don't think I'll have an option. Okay, I'm going to wait for him to get closer and then... Nailed it! Oh, I've played the demo for many games, Captain Zergy. It's one of the things I love the most about GOG is it's finally a chance for me to play the full versions of some of those games. There are some that aren't on the GOG site, either because the rights are tied up or something like that. That's always a bit of a shame, but... It's got better aim than me. Hello, the Eyes of Sin. Stuck in Medford, so watching from your phone. Well, I'll caution you, Eyes of Sin, I'm probably gone in the next little while, because I had a lot of troubles setting up the stream. But I'm very happy that you're here, and if you don't mind a short cast, we're very happy to have you. I suppose I could like change the encoding down like from 720. I'm not entirely sure this game needs the resolution, but it's a little late for that. How's this treating me? It's definitely very punishing when you die. But it's enjoyable. And I think Jess is being a bit of a trooper, managing all the pixels. Oh, you've been lurking from the start. My bad. Oh, sorry, Jess. Maybe just put some, like, Vaseline on the monitor. Ah! Okay, well, tell you what. So the big gray blurs are coming by. And now I've got little brown blurs that are through. Okay, there's a slightly lighter gray blur. Now there's a blue blur. Okay, now there's a moving blur, and I just shot it, so it stopped moving. Ah! Okay, I got surprised by a different like blur. And now I'm opening. Okay, there's two blue blurs. Now these are tricky to deal with, but they're taken care of. Please stop self-promoting in my cast, Jesse Quill. Oh. By the way, speaking of Eyes of Sin, how many Nazis are there in this place? We are still at double-digit subscribers, which surprised me a little bit, and I believe a large part of that is due to the Eyes of Sin producing some really wonderful emotes for me. So if you guys are subbed and you have not used them yet, feel free to use the at System 1. Well, Jessie Quill just gave my favorite. And she is a caster herself. Oh, that was faster than I was expecting. I have time for another one. Oh, this is going to be a costly mistake. Hope the ammo is worth it, BJ. Ah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blow all my ammo trying to take out people before they kill me. I didn't think that through. I lose my cool guns. Hello, custom games. Just don't learn. Oh shit. Alright, well that's 2 lives down. Trying to be a little more active in my movement if I can. Just basically distance is will affect their aim more than it affects mine. It's not perfect, but as you can see, I can kind of take people out from across the map, whereas they tend to just glance me. They don't just glance me if I'm far away. It's not a perfect predictor, but there's another guy in here. Can somebody make a Wolfenstein remake with recharging health? Oh crap. There's 2 of them too. I believe it did, but I'm not using it. Okay, let's see if I can snag that. Get wrecked. Really? Because I think the game's as old as you said. Great for the treasure, but it'd be really cool if I could get some health. Oh, is it? Okay, my bad. Yeah, I never got the helmet thing in the new one. I think it's hilarious, but... Mother played Doom. Interesting. Yeah, see, I was never... This is the really weird thing. So, like, obviously we talked about the religious background and how we were playing, like, Wolfenstein in, like, the pastor's office. But for some reason, Doom was, like... That was, like, the line in the sand. That and, like, Mortal Kombat, which I never had that much interest in anyway. But it was just so weird that, like, you can take out Nazis in, like, bloody ways. But, like, as soon as it's demons, like actual agents from hell, apparently that's like, you know, that's the devil's work. Happy pre-birthday, as I've said. Actually, I'm slowly putting reminders for things into my phone, so I was gonna try and be very impressive by explaining that I in fact knew it was your birthday, but now it's ruined. All that effort setting up the alert. If I get the gold key, I'm still probably gonna die on my way to delivering it. Oh, really, Jesse Quill? See, the really funny thing is the last time that I asked you, it turns out that I actually had it in my alerts. And I was asking so I could double check that it was inside there. But then the other problem that I ran into was like by my autocorrect brings all my boys to the yard. What? Anyway, so when I asked you, it turns out that I'd already put it in my calendar. So, my question to you, Miss Jessie Quill, what will you bet me that I can tell your birthday? Basically, like as soon as you tell me what the bet is, I will say your birthday. What would you wager that I'm able to do that? Snapchat nudes? Done. March 25th. I may have just died for that, but nudes are worth it. Well, at least I got another life. Who's Jeff? Ha ha ha. I was really hoping that there would be another Alright, so the game has sort of forgiven me for my stupidity, although I'm still really low on ammo. And I have no idea where I'm going. Sorry, just a second, guys. I wasn't sure if you just got permaban custom games, so I was actually going to send a text to Jess saying, is like, is there something I should know about? Hello, Inferno Fowler. How are you doing? I have no idea where I am. I really wanted to wrap it up at 10:30. I'm going to try and get through the rest of this level, but I'm not going to make any promises. I partly want to make sure that Inferno Fowler doesn't feel like we're just ending the cast as soon as he shows up. Man, everybody loves telling me to save in this game. I keep telling people I don't like being told how to play games. It's a circle of life. For those of you who would like to play Wolfenstein on your own and to have it played the proper way, feel free to use the GOG affiliate link. The game is inexpensive. Episode 1, Pavel 444. Yes. I think... No, it sounds good, Inferno Feller. I mean, I'm in the middle of a level, right? So if it comes right down to it, I'll save and go. But it's I don't know. I do my best if I can to if somebody just comes into the cast and I feel like I have a little gas in the tank left, I try and I try and do what I can. So. You know it's better than the Kappa emote? My emote. Oh, crap. Oh. It's a lot of guys. Oh, that's not the same room, but that is some ammo, so. Yeah, Lakeland 09, this is one of the first FPSs. I'm not sure what the first one is, but basically the story of the game is that you're an American soldier, BJ Blazkowicz. You are held in a prison called Castle Wolfenstein. You've killed the guard, and you need to escape. We're on the first episode, which is basically sold as a standalone sort of shareware game, and if you liked it, you would pay to get the rest of it. I never really played more than the shareware, and like it's been forever, so I don't remember anything about this level at all. But yeah, basically this is the precursor to the new game that came out. And it's like what chat said. Basically, you go through a castle and you kill soldiers of the Third Reich. Well, it's really interesting to play. I was talking about this a little bit before, so I don't have quite the same nostalgia for the... Wow! That was a lot of health in one shot. Okay, well, I'm going to call it for tonight, guys. So, Lakeland, thank you very much for following. I'm sorry I'm running off right now. But I got a late start to the cast, and I usually wrap up around 10. But yeah, don't worry. I don't like. It's not a like. So the big thing is, I just want to play it kind of like I would normally, which is just one sitting. You know, I'm given a finite number of lives, and if I exhaust those lives, then I need to start over again. So I save so I can continue on the cast. But yeah, anyways, thank you very much for the follow. I apologize for for wrapping up just as soon as you got in. But I will say, like, for those of you who are interested in this, or if you kind of want to know if there's any value in playing some of these classics, I don't quite have the same nostalgia for the... Actually, you know what? I think... Oh, I can't. I thought I could go back to the demo, but... One of the things I'll say that's really interesting about going back to games like these is to play games like Battlefield or Call of Duty or the new Wolfenstein or the new Doom, or, there's no shortage of very good first-person shooters out there. But what interests me the most is to sort of see what things I take for granted in modern FPSs that are absent, and whether or not the game works with them or not. So things that are missing from this Wolfenstein game would be cover. Even though you can sort of see in the the opening visual of the game, there's like a picture of sort of BJ like hiding around the corner with a Nazi coming on the way. Like, you can't do that in the game. That's something that you'd basically need to wait for more cover-based shooters, of which Wolfenstein, the new Wolfensteins do. You would actually need to wait a couple of decades before you could do that. you are not able to move up and down. You're basically limited to the X and Y axis in this game, whereas so much level design for games like Quake and all of that is sort of reliant on the fact that you're not stuck on one plane, but you can actually move throughout the space, and you can go up and down stairs, and it just makes things that much more interesting to look at. What else is there about the game? No reloading. You know, you have to manage your resources well. So clearly through that level, I was having difficulty. kind of keeping track of my ammo and keeping track of my health. And yet, despite all of that, you know, despite the fact that I think the levels wind up being very mazy, it's a really engaging game. It's something that I had a lot of fun playing. So I can't make any promises that I'll be going back to it really soon, because I know I want to do Cultist Simulator fairly soon. Incidentally, Jess, do you know when you're going to be streaming that? And then there's a couple more story-based things that I would like to do later on. But I don't know. I'll save those for later. Endgame. Yes. In the next week. Fair enough. Yeah, there we go. So you couldn't do that in the game. Yeah, anyways, so apparently Jess will do Cultist Simulator within the next week. I was kind of gonna do mine after she did hers, but we'll see. There's gonna be more Stellaris coming on Monday. Friday, I'm not sure what I'm gonna play. I need to figure that out. But thank you very much for hanging out, everybody. Let's take a minute to find somebody to host. Oh, this is perfect. Well, actually, see, this is tricky. So there's somebody who I really like watching, and there's somebody who... You know what? I'd feel bad... Oops, sorry. I'd feel bad not to do this. So I will let you know, if you guys like classic games, Kilgore Trout is currently playing Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. So if you guys like that, I can definitely give you a very big recommendation for Kilgore Trout, KILG0RE_TR0UT. But we're actually going to host Johnny Big Time tonight because he's only got 2 people watching him. He's playing Monster Hunter, which actually looks quite interesting, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So I definitely strongly recommend both of these streamers. If you like classic games, definitely check out Kilgore Trout. But for a raid tonight, I would love it if you guys can come along and watch Johnny. Yeah, sorry, Armor87. We had a late start, and I need to get a proper bedtime tonight. So. But yeah, Johnny's a wonderful caster. He is hilarious. He's always got a great attitude, and I would love it if we can give him a little bit more support. And I know Monster Hunter seems to be really popular right now, so it'd be great if we can go through. So anyways, guys, have a good night. We will see you next time, and I leave you in the capable hands of Johnny Big Time. Please go in, use a raid message, retard a system talk, or this place was better. We'll see you then.